Let's lay some noise.
Hey guys, thank you for tuning into Vic and Amanda Straight No Chaser
podcast.
We definitely need to drink to this. Shout out to Victor Young with Dunamis.
Actually, you know what? This has been out in the hot sun. I'm going to have to pour myself another one. What I'm about to do right now, I don't recommend at home. Okay. That's if you don't have a pool, don't worry about it.
The luxuries of having a nice pool.
Well, there's chlorine in the pool, guys. It's not going to hurt anything.
Yeah, and it's liquor.
There's people that pee in the pool. We don't pee in our pool, but people would. Listen, this is why I don't swim in public pools, because I know what people would do. You know who you are. Stop peeing in the pool.
Don't look at the TikTok. Look at this camera. Because we're still filming for the episode. This is just kind of behind.
Well, I'm distracted. It's the first time we had our live TikTok. Okay.
For our podcast viewers, we are also streaming live on TikTok, so we tried something a little bit different.
We should always do that.
Yeah, we definitely should. I don't know why I just had this thought. Okay, so
you had a thought?
Yeah, I had the thought to do this.
Since when? How many thoughts do you have? I mean,
they're very seldom.
In your whole
life. About a good thought a day.
Let's celebrate you having a good thought.
Okay. Ooh, all right. Today's subject is P. Diddy, Sean Combs, and the Freak Offs. This is our second podcast episode on this subject, but we wanted to do one now that the trial is coming to an end. It's been more than 6 weeks of detailed testimonies, including 34 witnesses, including exes, escorts, staff. He faces 5 federal counts, including racketeering, sex trafficking, transportation for prostitution, and he is possibly carrying a life sentence. So where do you think this is going?
We did an earlier podcast early when this first started, and that's about 2 months ago.
Yeah.
So, I've been watching it and like a lot of people watching it, and I'm not an expert on it. Nobody is. I wasn't there. But I've got some predictions because both the prosecution is rested and the defense is rested.
And the defense did not call any witnesses.
Well, I think what they're saying and what they're trying to say is there's no need for any witnesses because in their estimation, he's not guilty. So they're sending a message that way. But it's going to be interesting, no question. The entire case is interesting. But my prediction is that he does not get found guilty on the racketeering. I just personally think that's a stretch. I don't think he's going to get racketeering. But I do think that he's going to be found guilty of something, and it might be the sex trafficking. And I think and we'll find out. We'll probably find out next week whether I'm right or not. I don't think he's going to get the racketeering, but I think he's going to get the sex trafficking. I do think they're going to send him to prison now, and I do also think that there's a good chance that Donald Trump might pardon him as well. We can talk about that in a minute. Yeah, I do, because Donald Trump, the Trump Towers was in New York, and the Attorney General of New York was trying to take his building from him and did a lot of different things. And, I'm not all familiar with that case, but I know he's very angry with the state of New York and the judicial prosecutors and the people in the federal department and the people in the Attorney General's office, Letitia James. So I say that to say, I think just as a slap in the face to the justice system out there and all those people, that he is going to let them out. And there is actually a video that shows Donald Trump and Sean Combs years ago together when Sean Combs was in trouble, and he was kind of counseling during a show together Sean Combs about getting into trouble. And just take a look at it. You can see it yourself.
A few people were saying I was this violent character. Just because I was breaking people's jaws and arms, and look at me, I'm like, I'm just a passionate young man, and I made a mistake.
Well, everybody's going to get in trouble. It's a question of how do you get out of trouble. Mm-hmm. And I did it by working smart. More importantly than anything else is by using my own brain. And, I've done things, but I'm not in any trouble, and I'm doing well, and I'm making money.
Well, you're making the same mistakes that I am. You may just be able to hide yours a little bit better.
Perhaps, perhaps not. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. See, one of the problems with politics and politicians is that you really can't have done.
I think there's a message here. There's definitely a message. Every time something happens, there's a message. And I think there's a huge message with all the media that's been on this, with all the pundits and the people talking and all the people set up podcasts and set up interviews and TV and all the narratives. One thing for sure for the people who are out here, and particularly the men that are out here, no means no. And I just recently saw my nephew graduate from high school. He's on the way to college. And one of the things I said to him is the same thing I'm saying to you right now, if you're listening. If a woman says no, then it's no. And I believe that the reason that Sean Combs really got in a lot of the trouble that he is, there's a lot of reasons. We're going to go over them. But one of them is when people said no. You know, I like to do a lot of things too. I mean, I like the baby oil. I'm not a baby oil guy. That's just not what I like to do. I don't like a lot of oil and all that stuff. People do. Well, it's true. But I mean, are you an oil person?
No,
I don't know.
just come
I'm
on.
just saying, I'm not an oil guy. I'm not sure that, you know, we're talking about, I don't know, how many bottles of lube did he have? I mean, how much is an extreme? You had 10 bottles, $20, 100 bottles, 1,000 bottles. What difference does it make? If the girl wants to be involved and you want to be involved, I don't care how much lube you have in your bedroom.
Or what goes on in the bedroom.
Well, I really don't care.
As long as there's two participating people.
I wouldn't want anybody peering into what goes on in my bedroom. Most people wouldn't. But here's what I want to say. If a girl tells me no and they don't want to do something, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to give her drugs. I'm not going to put anything in her drink. I'm not going to slip any drugs in the drink. I'm not going to threaten her to do.
Pressure her.
I'm not going to pressure her to do something she does not want to do. And I told my 17-year-old nephew the same thing. He's going off to college. When a girl says no, no. And I believe that's where Sean Combs got into a lot of trouble. Now, of course,
I think he blurred the line.
He definitely blurred the line.
He definitely blurred the lines, and he took it too far. I think he let his power get to his head, and I think instances like Cassie, like, she was a willing participant. Okay, that's one thing that was unveiled in this. Like, Cassie was a little bit of a freak. Like, the shit that she was doing.
Oh, there's no question about it.
She was definitely.
Did they have her? They have actual text messages from her.
Cassie was getting out of those.
I'm ready for the freak off. What are we doing tonight? I mean, she definitely was a willing participant. Things went south with Cassie because everybody also has a right at some point in time to say, hey, you know what? I don't want to do that anymore. I mean, hey, I played baseball today. I don't want to play tomorrow. That's fair enough. Right. At some point in time, it was no longer fun for her. Right. I understand that. But, you know, that's where it really went south for her. But she was a willing participant. But where he was concerned, he kept pressuring her and demanding and pushing and did all kinds of things. He went too far when he was videotaped beating up that girl, too. That's really where a lot of this came from. So it's an interesting thing to me that he said to her, hey, you know, I was wrong. I did wrong. I shouldn't have done that. Here's a check for $20 million. Look, we've all done wrong in our relationship some kind of way. I wish somebody would have given me a check for $20 million for something that they did to me. You know, I would have happily done it.
He would have happily shut the fuck up.
Yeah, would have happily shut the fuck up. You know, what is curious to me, though, and it's still curious, is that he gave her $20 million, and then you still end up in court testifying against the man. You know, so...
And that also shows, I mean, someone that's innocent, though, is not going to be, okay, take me to court. You know what I'm saying? He was trying to cover up his tracks. And he was hoping none of this would ever see the light of day.
And agreed. And so, you know, so the lines are blurred. It's a very messy situation, but it really is, as far as I'm concerned, it's a wake-up call for people and their behavior and what you do and what you don't do. Because I can tell you right now, we're living in a day and age now where this is what people are just, you know, out here doing. And you better be careful about who you're with and what you're doing, because you'll end up in a situation like this. And not that I'm sitting here, I'm not happy to see him in the trouble he's in, but if you play, you pay. And he did this over and over and over and over and over and over again.
He thought he was untouchable.
Even
like the white guy that, you know.
Epstein.
Epstein did it over and over and over, and
well, he had a whole island.
He had a whole island.
He made Sean Combs look like
exactly. He knew it was so bad
like
he hung himself. He couldn't
well,
handle.
I don't think he hung himself.
Oh, you think someone
I
killed him?
think because
I
he was
thought
in
he,
the
like,
MCC.
pussied out.
No, there were a lot of people. You know, Prince and one of the Queen's brother was involved.
Yeah.
There were a lot of famous people that Epstein was associated with.
Oh, so you think someone?
What happened in the MCC was the same place Sean Combs is right now. They all of a sudden, all of the intel, all the electricity, all the surveillance cameras, all of a sudden failed. When the lights came back on, the cameras worked again. He was hanging in the cell. So you decide what happened.
Yeah.
You know, he didn't hang himself. That's just too convenient. All of a sudden, you're in jail, and all of a sudden it goes dim, and the video camera doesn't work, and the lights come back on, and somebody's hanging in their cell. That was a hit, and anybody who knows anything knows that to be true. But yeah, that's my thought on that. It will be interesting, but my prediction, I'm just making a prediction. I do not see the racketeering. I know that they're accusing him of blowing up Kid Cudi's car, and he probably did it. But I mean,
I
they
think,
can't
and
prove
he
it.
definitely killed Kim Porter.
Well,
because she was about to come out with a book.
Well, yes, and something, it doesn't smell right. But you don't go to prison because something smells right. You go to prison because of what they can prove.
Right.
And so you can't prove that. You can't prove he blew up that car. So I think, personally, this is my opinion. I think that he doesn't get the racketeering charge. I think that's a stretch. But I do think he is going to get the sex trafficking charge because you had all these sex workers coming and flying in across state lines, and that is sex trafficking. I think they got him there. And I think that the jury, their minds are poisoned to a certain degree because of what they saw in that video. At the end of the day, you're not there for domestic violence, but you are on tape beating somebody's ass or beating her ass, kicking her in like a dog, and people saw it,
on camera, so you can only imagine what really the other things. Well, and she talked about that in her testimonies too. She had a lot of black eyes. And,
But
that wasn't an isolated situation.
But having said that, especially a person like myself who's been in trouble in life and made some wrong decisions and did some things I regret and had to go to prison for it, I believe in redemption for everyone. So this has obviously been a wake-up call for Sean Combs. If he has to go to prison, then hopefully it would be a wake-up call for him. And he does have children. He has daughters just like I have you. He has twin daughters, and he has sons, and he has people. And I hope that whatever happens to him, that he has an opportunity to redeem himself because he's a child of God like everybody else. But for now, you're going to have to pay for whatever you did like anybody else. And some things you just can't do. I remember when I was growing up, I used to tell my mom, when I was committing a lot of crimes I committed, I said, well, look at the Kennedys, because their legacy and their money was started with this bootlegging. Joe Kennedy was doing all those things. Their money came from illegal means, and my mother was quick to tell me, you're not a Kennedy. So I think that Sean Combs is finding out that at the end of the day, whatever you might have thought that your fame and your money and your contributions to society, and you did contribute a lot. He did a lot of good. He made a lot of good music, and he was really a genius in marketing and all those things he did, which is a shame to see him fall. But at the end of the day, you're a black man in America. You can't do, and he found out you can't go out and do everything Justin Bieber might be able to do. If this case was, but Justin Bieber had 1,000 bottles of baby oil, and he was doing the same shit, I don't think we'd be looking at him right now. It's a little bit different. So just my opinion, but that's what I think.
All right, so we're going to drop this episode before it comes out. Please drop in the comments what you think is going to happen, your guys' opinions on this. And we appreciate all of the love and the support. Please continue to like, comment, and subscribe. And we'll see you on the next episode.